Here's a fun little video just kind of showcasing the similarities and small differences between the original M1 Garand and the more modern M1A SOCOM. Now, there are a lot of similarities, as you can see. It's the same basic rifle system. It's a piston-driven, gas-operated gun, but there are small differences just showing the evolution over the years. Now, with that said, there hasn't been a lot of small differences. As you can see from a top view here over the receiver and the bolts here, you can see the bolts are virtually identical. Of course, the dimensions are going to be a little bit different, and that is just solely because, well, this is a 30-06 and this is a 308. So there's going to be small differences in dimensions. You can't really swap them directly out, but the design itself is still the same. The op rod handle right here, you can see, is virtually identical in design. The rear sight setup, the peep sight setup, is identical between the M1 Garand and the M1A SOCOM. The one difference is right here, this is a provision for you can either mount a scope if you so choose to buy the scope mount that'll go to this, or this channel right here is the main purpose is for stripper clips. This is a magazine fed. Both of these are actually magazine fed, but there's a difference and I'll get into that here in a minute. This is an external magazine fed, but without having a change of magazine, you have a provision to load stripper clips 5 at a time to top off a magazine. This is magazine fed also. This is external, this is internal. The magazine is internal, and the way to feed the internal magazine on the M1 Garand is by the stripper clips right here. The M-block stripper clips. That's in essence what these are. And I'll show you here. Here's a fully loaded one. People don't realize that. This is a clip. It's not a magazine, it's a clip. And I'll go into more detail on that here in a second. Now, another difference, a slight difference, is you look here. Your release here is slightly different than the M1 right here. Here's the M1 release, here's the M1A. Main reason is also because, well, you have an internal magazine right here versus an external. That's the main differences. Now I'll go ahead and set these down right here like so. The trigger group is pretty much identical in design. Here's your safety here, here's your safety here. The design is the same. The exception is, of course, right here. Externally fed magazine with your mag release right here. And then, of course, the original Garand was an internal mag. There's no provisions for a mag release. Although there is a modification out there, supposedly, that you can turn a Garand into an externally magazine-fed rifle. But honestly, I don't know why you would want to do that when you could just get an M1A. Now, the stocks, there's a lot of similarities in the stocks. This one, of course, is a fiberglass shorter stock, but the stocks are similar. They're not the same. There are some slight dimensional differences because you can see this one's a little bit fatter right here. This one's a little bit thinner, more streamlined. It's just what it is. It doesn't really hurt anything as far as the ergonomics of either rifle. Going up to the muzzle end, both gas piston operated rifles. Right here there's a little bit of differences. Here's the gas piston right here underneath the muzzle on both, or the barrel on both rifles. And of course you can see the differences in the end here for the plugs. Of course this one does have a muzzle brake on it, this one doesn't, and that's just due to design. M1 Garands, back then they really didn't have much as far as muzzle brakes go on standard issue military rifles. These days they got muzzle brakes, flash hiders, all that good stuff. Of course, as an update, the M1 Garand was made during a time when people didn't know what a rail was on a rifle. But these days, everything has to have rails. So there's your rails for your optics. In fact, the only M1 Garand out there that had optics was the M1D model, I believe, which was pretty much the sniper grade setup. So, alright, let's talk real quick on the main difference between the two. External magazine versus the external versus the internal. Let me grab an external here. Here's an external magazine that is rocked into place. on the M1A, like so. The M1 Garand has an internal magazine, and I'll show that to you here. You can see right there, there's the follower of the magazine. And the follower moves back and forth like so, and assists. The clip right here, which you can see, I'll use an empty one, you can see fits around and guides the bullets into the internal magazine of the rifle. So a lot of people might say, well, is that really a magazine? In essence, this is a magazine-fed rifle, but the magazine itself is internal and fixed. You got the clip, which is not. And of course, get it loaded here. Of course, and I'll do it because there's been a lot of requests to hear it more. When the magazine is empty, it pops out the M-block clip, and there you go, it's ready to load another one. But in essence, you can see this is the follower right here for the magazine. It's all internal. It doesn't come out of the rifle, just the clips do. So that's why I say this is an internally magazine-fed rifle. Of course, another way to look at it is, yes, it's a clip-fed rifle, which is also correct because it does take the M-block clips. You need these if you want to fire the rifle in a semi-automatic fashion. If you want to fire it in a one round at a time, you do not need the M-block clips. You can just load around here, push down a little bit, send the bolt forward, it'll chamber. When it fires, it'll lock the bolt back, and you can just do the same thing over and over again. So if you want to fire the rifle in a semi-automatic fashion, you need that. But that's kind of some basic differences between the M1 Garand and the M1A SOCOM. Just some real basic ones. I didn't really go over the internals, the specifics. I may do that at a different time. Just wanted to show you some obvious ones in case people are wondering, hey, what exactly is the difference between a Garand and an M1A? And an M1A is pretty much a civilian version of an M14. This was the SOCOM version. You got the full size and you got the Scout models. If you guys have an M1A, feel free to post a video response, show it, talk about it, all that good stuff. So, all right. Thanks a lot for watching, and as always, please stay safe.